The night was quiet. The small house stood alone at the edge of the town, far from the noise of the city. The man inside was used to silence. He liked it that way. His life was simple, with no visitors, no surprises, and no late-night drama. But that night was different. That night someone knocked on his door. At first he thought it was the wind. The sound was soft, like fingers brushing against the wood. He ignored it. But then the knock came again, sharper this time. He froze. It was past midnight. Nobody came to his house at this hour. Slowly he stood up and walked toward the door. The knocking stopped, but a strange feeling filled his chest, heavy and uneasy, like something was waiting for him on the other side. He opened the door. At his doorstep stood a little girl, or at least she looked like a girl. Her hair was dark and messy, her clothes torn, her face pale. In her small hands she clutched a strange box that gave off a soft blue glow. Her eyes were wide, shining in the dark, but they were not human eyes. They were too bright, too sharp, like stars trapped in glass. The man did not know what to say. Children did not appear at strange doors in the middle of the night. Not like this, not holding glowing boxes. She looked up at him, her lips trembling as she whispered one strange sentence. "They dropped me here." Her voice was soft, but her words hit him like a hammer. Dropped her here? Who? And why at his door? He looked around into the empty night. The street was dark. No cars, no people. No sound of footsteps fading away. Whoever had left her was already gone. The girl hugged the box closer to her chest. "Please," she said. "They call me Cute Trouble." The name was strange. It didn't fit her weak and fragile look. She didn't look like trouble at all. She looked lost. She looked scared. But still, something about her didn't feel right. The man hesitated. He could close the door. He could tell himself this was none of his business. But her eyes, those strange star-like eyes, they were begging him. He stepped aside and motioned for her to come in. She walked inside, small and careful, like a stray animal afraid of being kicked out again. Her bare feet made no sound on the wooden floor. The blue glow of the box filled the room with a faint, eerie light. He wanted to ask her questions, where she came from, what was in the box, who they were, but before he could, she looked up at him and whispered, "They will come back." The man's chest tightened. "Who will come back?" he asked. "The hunters," she said, her voice trembling. "They want me. They want this." She lifted the glowing box higher, and for the first time he noticed strange markings on its surface, symbols sharp and curving, not from any language he had ever seen. The glow pulsed like a heartbeat, faint but alive. He rubbed his eyes, telling himself he must be dreaming. But when he looked again, the girl was still there, the box still glowing. Her strange eyes were still watching him, silently waiting for his answer. He sighed and pointed at a chair. "Sit," he said. "You're safe here." For now, the girl obeyed. She sat down, clutching the box to her chest, her small body shaking with fear. He could see she was exhausted, maybe even hurt. For a moment, he felt a strange pull in his heart. She wasn't his daughter. She wasn't even human, but something about her made him feel responsible. He walked to the window and pulled back the curtain. The street was empty, but in the distance, just beyond the trees, he thought he saw a flicker of light, like headlights or maybe something else. A cold shiver crawled down his spine. When he turned back, the girl was staring at him. Her voice was quiet, but her words made his skin crawl. "They will find me," she said. "And when they do, they will find you too." The man felt his throat go dry. He had wanted a quiet life, free from drama, but now something had been dropped at his door. Something strange, something dangerous, and for reasons he could not understand, she had chosen to call herself Cute Trouble. As he stood there, the glow from the box pulsing like a second heartbeat in the room, he realized one thing. This was no ordinary night. His life was no longer his own, and somewhere in the dark, whoever had dropped her off was already coming back. The man stood in the middle of his small living room, staring at the strange girl sitting on the chair. She was hugging the glowing box as if her life depended on it. The soft blue light painted her pale face, making her look even more fragile, and yet there was something sharp, something dangerous, hiding behind those star-like eyes. He didn't know what to do. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a fighter. He was just a simple man who wanted a quiet life. And now in the middle of the night he had a child, no, an alien, sitting in his home, warning him about hunters. The silence between them grew heavy. broken only by the faint hum of the box. Finally, he asked, "What do you want me to do?" The girl looked at him, her eyes clear and steady. "Take me away," she whispered. He frowned. "Away, away where?" Her thin fingers traced the edges of the glowing box. "Not here. Not in this house. They will track me. They always track me." The man ran a hand through his hair. This was madness. He could throw her out right now. Close the door. Pretend this night never happened. But when he looked at her trembling hands and frightened eyes, he knew he couldn't. Something inside him refused to abandon her. With a deep breath, he grabbed his old car keys from the table. "Fine," he said. "If you want to leave, we'll leave." The girl stood quickly, almost too quickly, as if the word leave was the only thing keeping her alive. She followed him outside into the cool night air. The street was still empty, but he could feel the silence pressing down on them, as if the shadows themselves were watching. He opened the passenger door of his old dented car. The girl climbed in carefully, still clutching the glowing box to her chest. She sat stiff, her small body pressed against the seat, her strange eyes wide and unblinking. The man slid into the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine coughed, rattled, and groaned, just like it always did. It was an old car, tired and slow, barely holding itself together. But before he could curse it, the girl reached out and touched the dashboard with her tiny hand. The lights flickered. The engine gave a sudden, powerful roar like a beast waking from sleep. The old car trembled, but instead of dying, it purred with new life. The man stared, wide-eyed. What did you just do?" The girl didn't answer. She only whispered one word, soft but urgent. "Drive." Confused and uneasy, he pressed down on the accelerator. The car rolled forward smoother than it had ever been before. The headlights cut through the dark and the tires hummed against the road like they were gliding. For a few minutes, nothing happened. The night outside seemed normal, calm, even peaceful. But the man's hands tightened on the steering wheel. His instincts screamed that danger was close. Beside him, the girl held the box tighter and whispered something under her breath, a language he couldn't understand. Her voice was strange, soft, melodic, but filled with fear. Finally, he asked, "Who are they? These hunters you keep talking about?" Her eyes stayed fixed on the window, watching the trees blur past. "Not soldiers, not guards, merchants, they sell lives." "They sell me!" The words chilled him. Merchants sell her? She looked no older than 10. Who could look at a child and see money? He gritted his teeth, anger rising in his chest. But before he could say anything, the girl turned toward him. "If they find me, Earth will burn," she said quietly. The man's heart skipped. Burn? Did she mean an invasion? A war? He wanted answers, but before he could ask, a bright flash cut across the night sky. He slammed on the brakes. The car skidded to a stop, tires screeching. The girl clutched the box tighter, her eyes wide. Above them, in the distance, strange lights moved through the clouds. 3 glowing orbs hovering, searching. "They found us," she whispered. The man's throat went dry. He had no weapons, no plan, no idea what he was caught in. All he had was his old car, a glowing box, and a frightened alien girl calling herself Cute Trouble. He hit the accelerator again. The car roared faster than it had any right to go. The trees blurred, the wind howled, and his heart pounded in his chest. He wasn't sure if he was driving to safety or straight into danger, but he knew one thing. Turning back was no longer an option. The girl looked at him then, really looked, her strange eyes glowing in the dark. "Driver," she said softly, almost like a name. "Don't stop." And for reasons he couldn't explain, he nodded. He wouldn't stop. Not for them. Not tonight. But as the lights in the sky drew closer, he realized something terrifying. This was no rescue. This was no accident. They had dropped Cute Trouble at his doorstep. On purpose. The night road stretched ahead, dark and empty, but the man's old car moved like lightning. The engine, once weak and tired, now roared with unnatural strength, as if the girl's touch had given it new life. The headlights cut sharp lines through the trees, but shadows still clung to the edges, thick and restless. The man gripped the wheel tightly, his knuckles white. He had no plan, no destination. He only knew one thing. Those lights in the sky were following them. Beside him, the girl pressed her face against the window, clutching the glowing box. Her strange, star-like eyes reflected the sky, where the 3 glowing orbs moved like predators. They hovered above the treetops, scanning, searching. "Keep driving," she whispered. Her voice was so calm it unsettled him. He swallowed hard. How long until they find us? Her answer was a whisper, but it carried a heavy weight. They already have. The words struck like ice in his chest. He pushed the accelerator harder. The car jolted forward faster and faster. The trees blurred into streaks of green and black. The tires screamed against the road. Then it happened. A sharp beam of light cut down from the sky, hitting the road just behind them. The ground cracked, dust exploding into the air. The man swore under his breath. Another beam followed, this one landing just inches from the car, scorching the pavement. "They're trying to stop us," he shouted. "No," the girl said. "They're playing." Her words made his stomach twist. Playing like a cat toying with a mouse? He glanced at her, but she wasn't looking at him. She was staring out the window, her grip on the box tightening. The beams kept coming, slashing across the road, forcing him to swerve left and right. Every time he thought they were done, another blast came closer, hotter, brighter. Sweat ran down his face. His hands shook on the wheel. But the car, his old broken-down car, moved like it had been reborn. It responded to every turn, every desperate push of the pedal. The girl finally looked at him. "Don't stop," she said again, her voice sharper this time. He almost laughed, a bitter sound. "You think I'm planning to?" Then he saw them. Two dark shapes dropped from the sky, landing on the road ahead. They weren't human. Tall, thin, with glowing armor that shimmered in the headlights. Their faces were hidden behind masks, but their movements were smooth, confident. They carried long weapons that pulsed with light, alive with energy. The man's breath caught. He had never seen anything like them. Hunters. The girl sat up straighter. "They're here for me." He clenched his teeth. "Yeah, I figured that much." The hunters raised their weapons. A blinding flash shot out, and a wave of energy surged across the road. Instinct took over. The man jerked the wheel hard to the right. The car spun, sliding across the dirt, narrowly avoiding the blast. Sparks lit the night as the bumper scraped the pavement. "Hold on," he shouted. The girl held tight, her eyes unblinking. The glowing box pulsed brighter, as if reacting to the danger. The man floored the accelerator. The car lunged forward again, straight toward the hunters. For a split second, he thought he was insane. Then the car responded in a way it never had before. It leapt like a wild animal, tires screaming, engine howling. The hunters moved, but not fast enough. The car slammed through them, throwing one to the side and forcing the other to jump clear. Sparks exploded as their weapons scraped against metal. The windshield cracked, but the car kept going. The man gasped for breath, his heart pounding like a drum. "What are they?" he demanded. The girl's reply was quiet, almost sad. "They are merchants of lives. They don't kill, they take. They take everything." The words chilled him more than the hunters' glowing weapons. He looked into the rearview mirror. The two figures were already standing again, their glowing masks turning toward the car. And above them, the three orbs in the sky burned brighter, descending lower, following the chase. The girl pressed the box to her chest and whispered something he couldn't hear. Something in that strange language. The glow pulsed harder, brighter, filling the car with light. The man didn't understand what she was or why she was here. But he understood one thing very clearly. The chase had begun, and it wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about who would reach the end first. Him, the girl, and her strange box. Or the hunters who wanted them both. The car tore through the night, engine screaming, headlights cutting long scars in the darkness. Behind them, the hunters were still chasing, their strange weapons firing beams that split the air. The glowing orbs in the sky hovered like watchful eyes, ready to strike again. The man's hands were tight on the steering wheel. His whole body shook with fear and adrenaline. He had never faced anything like this in his life. A quiet man, an ordinary man, suddenly trapped in something far beyond human understanding. Beside him, the girl sat in the passenger seat, clutching the glowing box. Her small face was calm now, almost too calm. She wasn't crying. She wasn't panicking. She just stared ahead as if she had already accepted whatever was coming. Finally, the man couldn't take the silence anymore. "You need to tell me the truth," he said, his voice rough. "What are you? Who are you? Why are they chasing you?" The girl looked at him, her star-like eyes reflecting the flickering dashboard lights. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she whispered, "They call me cute trouble." He gritted his teeth. "Yeah, you told me that already. But that doesn't explain anything. She hesitated, then lowered her gaze to the glowing box. Her thin fingers traced the strange symbols carved into its surface. "I was made," she said softly. The man frowned. "Made? What do you mean, made?" "I am not born," she whispered.
Not like you.
"Not like humans, I am created." Her words sent a cold chill through him. Created? She looked so much like a child, small, fragile, scared. But now he realized that everything about her might be a mask. A disguise, created for what? He asked. The girl hugged the box tighter. Her voice trembled, but she forced the words out. "For war. For destruction. I am a weapon." The car jolted as the man nearly swerved off the road. He caught the wheel again, his mind spinning. A weapon? The hunters were after a child, because she wasn't really a child at all. He looked at her in disbelief. "You, a weapon? You can't even be 10 years old." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "That is the trick. I look small. I look weak. But inside I carry power they cannot control." She tapped the box gently. "This keeps me contained. Without it..." Her voice trailed off. The man's heart pounded. He wanted to believe she was lying. He wanted to believe she was just a lost kid caught in something too big. But deep inside, he knew she wasn't lying. The hunters, the beams, the glowing box, everything pointed to a truth too big for him to ignore. He forced his voice to stay steady. "If you're a weapon, then why didn't they just use you? Why drop you at my door?" Her eyes lifted to meet his. They glowed faintly, not with light, but with something deeper, sorrow. "Because I am broken," she whispered. "I would not follow orders. I laughed when they told me to kill. I cried when they told me to destroy. I failed them." The man stared at her, stunned. She wasn't just a weapon. She was something else, something more. "That's not failing," he said quietly. "That's being alive." For the first time, a flicker of something soft crossed her face. Hope, maybe, but it vanished quickly as a beam of light struck the road ahead, forcing the man to swerve hard to the left. The hunters were still closing in. The girl's voice turned sharp again. "You should leave me. If they take me, they might spare you." The man barked out a humorless laugh. "Yeah? Somehow I don't think they're the sparing type." She turned her face toward him, her eyes wide. "Why are you helping me?" "You don't know me. You don't owe me." He tightened his grip on the wheel. His throat felt dry, but his words came firm. "Because you knocked on my door. That makes you my responsibility. And I don't leave people behind." For a moment, silence filled the car again, broken only by the roar of the engine and the hum of the glowing box. The girl looked at him as if she couldn't understand. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. No one had chosen her, not for her power, not for her value, but simply because she was there. Her small hand loosened its grip on the box. She whispered almost to herself, "Maybe I'm not broken after all." The man didn't answer. His eyes were on the road, where the hunters' lights were getting closer. He knew the chase wasn't over. The danger was only growing, but deep inside he felt something shift. She wasn't just cute trouble. She wasn't just a weapon. She was a child who wanted to be human, and he would fight to give her that chance. The night was no longer quiet. The forest road shook with sound. The growl of the car, the hum of alien machines, and the sharp crack of beams splitting the air. The man's old car raced forward faster than it had ever moved before, but the hunters were gaining ground. In the rearview mirror, he saw them. Tall and thin, moving with unnatural speed, their glowing armor flashing like fireflies in the dark. They didn't run like men. They glided, their long legs barely touching the road. And above them, the 3 orbs of light followed, floating silently, like vultures waiting for a kill. The man's chest tightened. He had never believed in aliens, never believed in monsters. Now he was watching them chase him down a road he had driven hundreds of times before. The hunters didn't belong here, but they looked terrifyingly comfortable, as if Earth was just another marketplace for their trade. Beside him, the girl sat still, holding the glowing box against her chest. Her star-like eyes didn't blink. "They are close," she whispered. "I can see that." The man snapped, jerking the wheel to avoid another beam that scorched the road. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might burst. The girl turned her head, her voice strangely calm. "They are not soldiers. They are not here to fight you. They are merchants." The word cut through him like a blade. "Merchants? They look like killers to me." "They are worse," she said. Her voice was low, steady, almost cold. "They don't kill unless they must. They don't destroy unless it brings profit. They take lives. They sell them. They see me as their most valuable cargo. The man gritted his teeth. Cargo, you're not cargo. You're a child. Her gaze lowered to the box in her lap. To them I am worth more than whole planets. The words sent a chill through him. Worth more than planets? What kind of child, what kind of weapon was she? He wanted to ask, but another blast of light forced him to slam the brakes. The car skidded sideways, dirt flying as a beam exploded just ahead. The hunters were driving him into a corner. In the mirror he saw their masks, smooth, faceless, glowing faintly with strange runes. They didn't look angry. They didn't look desperate. They looked patient, as if they already knew how this would end. They won't stop, the girl said. Even if you escape tonight, they will come again. And again. They never give up what they claim. The man's grip tightened on the wheel. He hated the fear crawling up his spine, hated the thought that she might be right. But more than that, he hated the way the hunters looked at her. Not as a person, not as a child, but as an object. A prize. His voice came out rough, angry. Then we'll make them regret it. The girl blinked at him. For a moment her calm mask cracked, and surprise flickered in her glowing eyes. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. No one had ever chosen to fight for her, not for what she was, but for who she could be. The hunters grew closer. Their weapons lit up, humming with energy. The orbs in the sky dropped lower, casting sharp white light across the road. The man slammed the accelerator. The car roared, shaking under the strain. His heart pounded. His thoughts raced. He had no plan, no weapon, no backup. But he had something the hunters didn't. Desperation and a reason to fight. Beside him, the girl pressed her forehead against the glowing box. The symbols across its surface flared brighter as if answering her touch. She whispered in her strange language, her voice trembling. The light filled the car, warm and alive. What are you doing? The man shouted, praying. She whispered, to be more than what they made me. The words hit him harder than the hunter's weapons. She wasn't just fighting to survive. She was fighting to be something beyond her creation, something human. The road curved ahead, winding through thick forest. The man yanked the wheel, the tires screaming as the car swerved around the bend. The hunters followed, smooth and relentless, their glowing armor slicing through the shadows. They won't stop, the girl repeated. The man's eyes narrowed. Neither will I. And in that moment, as the forest roared past and the hunters closed in, he made a silent promise. He didn't care if she was a weapon. He didn't care if she was worth more than planets. She was sitting in his passenger seat. And that made her his. The hunters might see her as cargo, but he would make them understand one truth. Humans don't give up the people they protect. Not ever. The car raced deeper into the forest, the headlights cutting sharp beams through the dark. The hunters were still behind them, glowing armor flashing between the trees, but for the moment they hadn't caught up. The man's hands were tight on the wheel, his jaw clenched. He had never been this scared, but also never this determined. Beside him, the girl sat quietly, hugging the glowing box. Her strange, star-like eyes stayed fixed on the road ahead, but her small body trembled. She had spoken of hunters, merchants, weapons, and war, but in the end she was still a child, lost, tired, and afraid. The man's chest tightened. He had told himself he didn't want responsibility. He had lived a quiet life for years, avoiding people, avoiding problems. But now this child, this alien who called herself Cute Trouble, had been left on his doorstep. And whether he wanted it or not, she was his responsibility now. You all right? He asked, his voice rough from fear and exhaustion. The girl blinked and turned her head slowly. Why do you ask? He frowned. Because you look like you're about to fall apart. Her lips pressed into a thin line. No one asks me that, not them. Not anyone. Well, I'm asking, he muttered. For the first time, her serious mask cracked. A tiny laugh slipped out, soft and fragile, as if she didn't quite know how to laugh. She pressed her hand to her mouth, surprised at the sound. The man glanced at her. What's funny? You, she said, shaking her head. You call me a child. You treat me like one. But I'm not supposed to be one. She tapped the glowing box. This proves it. I am not human. I am not real. His grip tightened on the steering wheel. You're real enough. You're sitting right there, aren't you? Her eyes softened, but her voice trembled. If I stay with you, they will burn your world. They will not stop. They will send more. Bigger ships. Stronger hunters. They will tear your life apart. The man let out a humorless laugh. Lady, my life's already apart. He paused, then added, but maybe yours doesn't have to be. The words made her fall silent. She looked down at the box, hugging it tighter, as if it was both her prison and her shield. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by the rumble of the car. The forest thinned, and the night sky stretched above them, endless and heavy. The glowing orbs still floated in the distance, always watching, but they weren't striking yet. The girl shifted in her seat. Her voice was small when she spoke. Driver, he glanced at her. What? That's what I will call you, she said simply. Driver, he raised a brow. That's it? Just driver? Her eyes glowed faintly. It fits. You carry me away when no one else would. The man didn't know what to say. It wasn't a name he had chosen, but the way she said it made it feel like more than a name, like a bond. He cleared his throat. All right, Trouble. If I'm driver, then you're Trouble. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. Cute Trouble, she corrected softly. He shook his head, almost smiling despite the fear clawing at his chest. For a brief moment, the world outside, the hunters, the orbs, the danger felt far away. For a brief moment, it felt like they were just two lost souls sharing the same road. But the peace didn't last. The orbs in the sky flared brighter, casting sharp white beams down through the trees. The girl stiffened, clutching the box. They are calling more, she whispered. They are never alone. The man cursed under his breath. He knew the chase wasn't over. Not even close. Still, he glanced at her again, at her frightened eyes and trembling hands. Something inside him hardened. He didn't care if the hunters brought an army. He didn't care if they burned the sky. She wasn't just a weapon. She wasn't just cargo. She wasn't something to be sold. She was his passenger, and he would fight for her, no matter the cost. The girl must have felt it too, because she leaned her head lightly against the seat, her eyes fluttering closed. For the first time since she appeared at his door, she allowed herself to rest. As the car sped through the night, hunted and surrounded, a fragile bond formed in the quiet between them. And deep inside, the man knew the hunters had made one mistake. They thought they were chasing a weapon, but what they had really done was give humanity a reason to fight. The night sky burned with light. The three glowing orbs had dropped lower, circling above the forest like hungry predators. The hunters were no longer far behind. They were closing in fast, their armor flashing as they moved. The man's car roared down the broken road, every bolt rattling, every tire screaming. Beside him, the girl held the glowing box tight against her chest. Her star-like eyes stayed locked on the sky. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She only whispered one truth over and over. They won't stop. Not until they take me. The man's grip tightened on the steering wheel. His heart pounded, his throat dry. He had no weapon, no plan, no hope of outrunning them forever. He knew that. And yet deep inside he felt a fire burning. He wasn't ready to give her up. Not now, not ever. Up ahead the road split into two paths. One toward the mountains, dark and steep, the other toward the city lights in the distance. The man's mind raced. If he went toward the mountains, maybe he could hide. But if he went toward the city, innocent people would be caught in the chaos. The girl's voice broke through his thoughts. Driver, she whispered. Let me go. He turned his head sharply. Not happening. You don't understand, she said, her voice trembling. If they get me, they won't just take me. They'll take everything. They'll burn your world. They will sell your planet like they sell me. He clenched his jaw. Then we don't let them. Her hands shook against the box. You don't know what I really am. Then tell me, he barked. Tell me what's inside that box. Her eyes glowed brighter, reflecting the pulse of the box. It holds my chains. Without it, I am free. But if I am free... She hesitated, her small voice dropping lower. The galaxy will know what I am, and it will not forgive me. The man's throat tightened. He realized then that the box wasn't just a container. It was a lock, a cage, and if she opened it, if she let go of its power, there would be no turning back. The hunters appeared again, leaping onto the road ahead, their weapons glowing with deadly light. The orbs above hummed, building energy for a final strike. The girl pressed her forehead against the box. Driver, choose, his mind screamed at him. If he handed her over, maybe they'd leave him alive. Maybe Earth would survive. But he looked at her trembling hands. at her frightened eyes, at the small smile she had given him when she called him driver. And he knew he couldn't betray her. Not now. Not ever. He slammed the brakes. The car skidded to a stop, dust flying. The hunters closed in, circling. Their glowing masks stared coldly, their weapons raised. One of them stepped forward, its voice mechanical and calm. "Release the cargo. You will not be harmed." The man stepped out of the car, his legs shaking but his fists clenched. He stood between the hunters and the passenger seat. "She's not cargo," he said, his voice steady. "She's mine." The hunters tilted their heads as if confused by the defiance. The orbs above flared, blinding white light filling the forest. The girl opened the car door slowly, stepping out with the glowing box in her arms. Her small figure looked fragile, breakable, but her eyes burned with new fire. "Driver," she whispered, "do you trust me?" He met her gaze. "With everything." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. Then she lifted the box high. The symbols flared, brighter and brighter, until the light swallowed the trees, the hunters, the orbs, the road. The night itself seemed to tremble. The hunters shouted in their strange tongue, their weapons firing, but it was too late. The box cracked open. The glow exploded outward, not as destruction, but as something else, something alive. The girl's small frame shone like a star. Her voice rang out clear and strong, no longer trembling. "I am not your weapon. I am not your cargo. I am free." The energy surged, knocking the hunters off their feet, shattering their weapons, forcing the orbs to scatter into the sky. The forest shook, but the man stood firm, shielding his eyes from the light. When it faded, the hunters were gone. The orbs vanished into the night. The road lay silent again. The girl lowered the broken box, her body trembling, but her eyes bright. She looked at the man, her voice soft. "I chose you, and you chose me." He let out a shaky breath, relief washing over him. "Guess that makes us both in trouble now." She laughed then, a real laugh, light and innocent, echoing through the night. And as the stars stretched above them, the man realized the truth. The hunters had been right about one thing. She was worth more than planets, but not because she was a weapon, because she was hope. And that night, in the quiet of a forest road, the galaxy learned a lesson it would never forget. Never underestimate a human with a passenger.